Sooners of Oklahoma at 12-0 and still looking for respect nationwide.
What is going on, Sooner Nation? Thank you all for tuning into another episode of the Barry and Mac Show. As always, myself, Barry, personal trainer, sports forms coach out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and alongside me, former Sooner wide receiver, 2000 national champ, Mr. Damian Mackey. How are we doing today, D Mac?
Man, I don't know, brother. How long's it been? It's been some months, right?
It's been a second.
I think it's our longest lag ever. Blessed, grateful. I've been getting some pretty funny DMs and threats and some nice asks too. So I think people want to know if we're going to stay consistent and stay on top of things. So back in the saddle, close to the season starting. I told a couple of people that both of us have had huge things happen in business for us the last year. And so some of those things are things we've been prioritizing during the off season, but getting back close to season, excited to have our conversations about our Sooners.
Absolutely, man. And we're going to talk about them today. Before we get started, want to let everybody know this show is brought to you by OU Insider, OUinsider.com. They've ported over the On3 look, man. It is live and ready to go. So OU Insider, though, still the brand, the site that we're repping over here. They help get us all up to snuff on the production side and makes everything look very cool. As always, the show is available in audio and video. Get us on YouTube, but also find us over there on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, and follow us on social media. But D-Mac, since we've been gone, let's see. OKC wins the chip. So that was a pretty big time. Chet, Jalen, and Shea both have generational upon generational wealth at this point now, but it doesn't kick in for another couple years is when it's going to really get, thick of it. They'll hit that second apron potentially, but man, for these next 2 years, OKC still has a shot. LeBron, we'll see what happens with him and his situation in LA, but I know a lot of Laker fans aren't feeling very good about that. But
we feel great. We'll send LeBron off into the sunset, give him his flowers, send him off to where he wants to go next to form a super team. We're in a position for the foreseeable future with our new management, with our young pups. We'll have another year or two of trying to figure it out. But I like the position we're in now where LeBron is not the lead dog. He's not a great lead dog. And so salute on the new change in management, the Buss family selling a majority ownership of the company or the franchise. And then salute on Luka. Luka's got to prove to everybody he can be a lead dog in good shape for an entire season. So we'll see. Let's get to football, man.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I was about to say, not a hoop show, but occasionally we'll dive in. The big news, though, D-Mac, is Joe Castiglione. I know there was some confusion when it came out as far as, is he retiring? Is this a Stoops thing? What's going on? Right now, he is still going to be active AD, but also looking for the future AD and assisting in that process. He really made OU athletics what it is in this era of sports, right? If it wasn't for Joe Castiglione, there is an argument to be made that OU would not be in the position they're in right now, right? Both in football, softball, basketball, that they look like they're in a position now to leverage themselves for the future. Just put another player in the NBA as a lottery pick in Fears. So some big time things happening for the Sooners. But D-Mac, you were a part of Castiglione's regime, his program, what he was trying to build in those early days, right? Bob Stoops, I don't think it's crazy to say that was the most important hire for him. Maybe Patty Gasso was right there at 1B, but Stoops, for what is the lifeblood of college athletics, football, Stoops was an incredibly important hire, but then he's also done some intelligent things along the way and helped bring this program to the forefront. First, let's take a look at just your thoughts on his time at Oklahoma, even though he's not gone, and then maybe what you see OU doing here into the future and where they might be thinking as a university.
Nothing but a lot of respect for Castiglione, the Don is what we call him. To this day, if I go to town, if he sees me before I see him, D-Mac, like, you know what I mean? Like, he's just one of those guys who remembers everybody. I was not a, all-American NFL dude. I was a glue guy, and it's been 25 seasons since my last season, and he still remembers me by nickname, and so he, by the way, always present. Anytime we did our 10-year, we did our 20-year, we just did our 25-year. He's at those things. He's present. He's pushing them. I think he was very innovative in his approach to really looking at, how he hired in the early 2000s, starting with Bob in 99 and then Patty, and then going through some of the basketball change-ups. Even the Jeff Capel, although it wasn't the best hire in the long run, right? But after Kelvin and the situation went down way back then, how about that text messaging? That's like bare bones minimum 20 years later, but 20 years ago, that was a big deal. He was always looking for the fresh, young, innovative, change the culture type of coach. And I think that's something that has helped us become a program that is well-rounded in terms of all of our sports. Track and field has national champions this year. Obviously, gymnastics has come up since he's been the AD. Softball has become the perennial powerhouse. Both our girls and boys basketball have had trips to Final Fours and really good teams. And, girls are back on the up. And obviously the boys had a solid season and now look to me like they're going to be recruiting well and going into this next season. Baseball had a championship run. And obviously this year, I think they made it to regionals or wherever they made it. You got to pay respect to that. And I think Joe C is a guy amongst his peers, the other administrators and ADs and kind of like the chancellor level, right? He's a guy who, when he speaks, people listen. He's a guy that when committees are formed, he's one of the first calls that are made. I think there's something to be said about a leader who transcends for multiple decades, like straight up, you know what I'm saying? OU has been a very powerful brand. But I do want to add this piece, B. I think he recognizes, and I think he wants to be in control of how things happen next. I think he recognizes that where the game is about to go, he's probably not the best voice, because the new voice needs to be one who's more in tune with how things are today. And if you're wanting to lay the groundwork, if you're wanting to turn a program around, if you're wanting to fix some type of huge issue that's happened, right? Joe C's a guy who he knows how to do that in his sleep. But I think what Joe C wants most for OU at this point is for OU to be, there's only one. And I think Joe C wants that in the core sports, which are football, men's and women's basketball, right? Baseball. I think he feels really good about where softball is. I think those core sports, he says, hey, I want to put somebody in charge now who is going to take us to the next level. And I think that's good leadership. I don't think he would ever admit that. I don't think he feels pressure to like his job's on the line. But I think he wants OU to continue to be successful. And I think if you do the SWOT analysis and say, hey, what are the opportunities, right? In this scenario, I think there is an opportunity to say who is a Joe C at 44 versus a Joe C at late 60s, right? And how does that rendition of Joe C help OU today? And I respect it. I respect him. He did a lot for our university. He did a lot for the football program over the course of the years. He did a lot for the football program during the years that I was at OU. Joe C fixed a lot of issues that came about when he got the job. When I got to OU, football players, by the way, this might sound terrible, but like everybody didn't get tights for when it was cold at practice. If you weren't on travel squad, like you weren't even issued tights. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like it was a situation where I don't know the details, but I think our finances were pretty screwed up. When it got cold during my redshirt freshman season, everybody didn't get knee-high socks. There were guys who would go buy soccer socks or go to Walmart and buy socks. Like that was like, yeah, there were guys wearing like their high school hoodies under their pads at practice because we couldn't be outfit with all the winter stuff that you would need. You know what I mean? When you're heading into the November, December aspect of the season, that turned really fast. I mean, that was one season we didn't have it. It's interesting. The next season we had our Under Armour. Like Nike school. Why do we have one? Whatever he did, he negotiated some deal, and all of our winter gear were Under Armour. We had Under Armour dry fits, Under Armour long sleeve, Under Armour socks, high knee highs that next season because we complained like, yo, dude, if you're not Damon Parker, you know what I mean? If you're not, I don't know, Terry White or Corey Ivy, why can't I have tights? It's cold as hell. I'm from California. And the next season, everybody had access to it. And then, of course, the season after that, championship season, everything was Nike, right? So we went a year where we had a ton of Under Armour stuff, and then the next year it was flush with Nike. So just a lot of the things he did, infrastructure, and those things matter to players. That's morale, that's character, that's, what I mean, like culture. Guys feel better about the program when they feel like they're being heard and being supported. Those are things that Josie helped implement just very intimately for us as ball players. I never forget the first year we were like, yo, dude, like our checks. I think my freshman year, I lived on campus. I didn't live off campus, but I think my check was like $26, $27. So every week you get a weekend check, a per diem check for weekend. It's to eat, Saturday and Sunday. It was $25, $27. I was like, yo, that's like, okay, you're telling me I got to go eat fast food. That's my only option because I got to make this last, 6 meals. And man, we complained about it. And I think before I left OU, the on-campus check was like $150 just for weekends.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And so I didn't get to benefit from it because I wasn't living on campus my junior, senior year. But the freshmen coming in just 3 seasons later, right? It wasn't a huge cost of living increase. It wasn't inflation didn't 4X, right? The AD listened. And so those guys were getting 108, 112. And that's a big difference. You're actually able to live and do some things. Of course, I don't know about statute of limitations, but we were okay. Don't get me wrong. We knew how to. I came from Cali, so I knew how to maneuver and figure, find some friends and what they say on How to Become a Millionaire, Phone a Friend. Yeah, we knew. We knew how to make the necessary. Here I go. Good to be back.
Man, I love that. I think as OU fans kind of look at his lineage, his time at OU, it wasn't perfect. There were certainly some mistakes made along the way, but just in terms of the program and how it's positioned going forward, similarly to how Stoops left the football program, they're in phenomenal shape. You make a good point where the AD, he's not really responsible outside of the hiring of the positions for the on-field product. He is responsible for what is the infrastructure going on behind the scenes. What do the finances, right? What does that look like?
Yeah.
And at this point, he's positioned the programs where OU is a profitable college program, college athletic program, and that is enormous. It does wonders for enrollment at the university. It's very important when it comes to just the image you're trying to portray as a successful university. All of that plays a critical role, and I think in some ways it kind of leads us to talking about the future, which we will get to. But before we fully shut that down, I want to ask this in terms of where OU might be going with the next AD. Do you see it being kind of maybe heavy towards the youth side, a strong negotiator, or do you think Oklahoma, let me almost like a, maybe not a Yormark, who's the commissioner of the Big 12, but maybe somebody in that vein being brought in, yes, to manage the infrastructure, but also looking forward in terms of TV social media, NIL, all of these things that are going to be important key elements? Or do you think OU still tries to maintain a, traditional approach with who they're going to hire?
I think your guess is as good as any. I think my guess would be just as much of a guess as anyone else's guess. Here's what I think I can contribute to this conversation, Barry. 3 years ago, I think it was 3 years ago. 3 years ago, Roy went into the College Football Hall of Fame, and part of that was a ceremony in Vegas where 10 of us spoke on his behalf. Coaches, college, NFL. I think one of his NFL buddies may have come. A lot of us were there. Hype was there. I think this is after Hype's first season at Tennessee. I believe it was after his first season. Anyway, Little Selman was there, and all the hype in that room that night was that he was going to be getting the Mississippi State AD role, and that was happening so that he could be groomed to come back to be the AD at OU when Joe Castiglione stepped away, and that it was going to be a 3 to 4 year run. And so I hope I'm not speaking to a secret. I don't think that's a secret that like was G14 classified. I mean, there were a lot of people there, and it wasn't explicitly said, but if you were in the right conversations, you heard it. So I would be interested to see what OU's approach is. I'm looking at different universities. First of all, I'm looking at the Big 12, and man, the moment we leave, the new Big 12 commissioner is a stud, like flat out. There's nothing to be said except the Big 12 is in good hands now. I think we're in better hands. However, what does OU look like in a Big 12 that's very reminiscent of an old school Big 8 when OU was a perennial dominating powerhouse because we were able to dominate our conference? If OU's in the Big 12 right now, right? If the new commissioner, I forgot his name, but if the guy's there 2 years sooner, do we feel like we need to leave? And with the guys who are quote unquote the heads of the conference now, what does it look like if OU is the lead dog with or without Texas? You know what I mean? Like the Big 12 is in good hands. The schools here are doing well. People are complaining about, Tech getting guys that usually are OU caliber, TCU getting guys, and Kansas State is even coming in and getting some of the players that generally, we're a cut above because of conference affiliation. I just say that to say, I am curious to know what OU's approach will be in terms of who that face of the athletic programs will be, because you're right. That face, it's not as important that face has like 50 years of past experience. I think what they're looking for more so now, and just the way innovation works today, is who is going to be cutting edge and how things are done moving forward. And so I think the interview process is going to be extremely essential versus the references. 20 years ago, if Bobby Bowden, Joe Paterno, and what's my buddy's name? That was USC when they played us, and now he's in the NFL.
Oh, Pete Carroll.
And Pete Carroll gives you a recommendation, right? Pretty much any school is gonna hire you, because back then they wanted to know you had pedigree coaches. The way technology and innovation is now, if you get ahead of the game on something and create a competitive advantage where you're able to leverage social media, you're able to leverage some type of media space, you're creating a relationship. For instance, Texas struck out with the Longhorn Network, but the premise of what they were trying to do, which is create their own singular form of, we're going to create a way to differentiate ourselves from every other program in America. That was, I respected of what they attempted to do. You might strike out that one time, but a program, OU comes and is able to differentiate in a way where now we're earmarking money in a way that other teams haven't caught on to yet. Now we have some form of a platform that monetizes athletes in a way that other schools aren't using yet, right? I'm just kind of throwing things out there because, I'm in the marketing space in my business. How do I differentiate my business versus my competitors, right? I think that's going to be a more primary and pivotal point. Because here's the thing, like even accounting and stuff like that, this, you're an entrepreneur. The books can all be monetized. AI can take the place of 500 years of accounting experience if you set the algorithms correctly to do the things you're asking it to do, right? So I think it's going to be more so a face of a marketing aspect, a innovation creator, right? A person who can interact and create relationships with the masses. To me, those are much more prominent. And then I'll button it with this and pass it back. Also, just like you said, it's not as if we're transitioning ADs because of a scandal or because we're bottom dwellers at every sport, right? Football needs to fix itself. And I think BV got his transition is one where he gets here and then NIL's in his face and the transfer portal's in his face, where he built culture at that whole thing. It's not an excuse. It is what it is. But it's not like the football program is in shambles and the sky is falling, maybe circa 97, right? We just need to see if BV is going to turn the corner and get things going the right way, whereas the other programs are in pretty good shape. Baseball, basketball, softball, wrestling, track and field. You go down the gambit. OU is competitive across the board. I think the new AD is going to be someone who's going to push the envelope, not someone who's going to stabilize, things that we've had in the past.
Man, I think that's probably the best way to put it. I commend what the Big 12 has done with Yormark, and I think that is just something to watch down the road with where they've positioned themselves. And I would see in the future, like I say, even though he's a commissioner in the AD vein, kind of going that route, right? This is why I feel like a Bob Stoops, right? I've heard his name thrown in there in terms of, being an AD. I just don't know in this day and age if that is maybe the route you want to take with what you're trying to do. And that's not a knock against Bob. Bob,
yep.
If this was 20 years ago, and Bob is the coach that he became, right? You probably do look at Bob or a Bobby Bowden or a Joe Pa or one of these coaches or guys who's been in the academic side, right? They would make phenomenal athletic directors because that was the sort of what the era demanded, right? Relationships and knowing people and schmoozing the donors and that kind of thing. And now it's a different game. And I think that's where we're at. And speaking of a different game, man, things were a little tricky with this Jaden O'Neal, Bo Bentley thing, but the dust seems to have settled, DMAC. We're not going to belabor it because it's been discussed at this point a ton, but just bird's eye view. I know people knocked me for wanting Jaden O'Neal instead of Bo Bentley, and I still think O'Neal is a great, phenomenal product. He's going to have success wherever he goes. I think he has first-round capabilities in terms of his athleticism, his arm, and the like. But I also do see the argument for Bo Bentley and why for Oklahoma right now, right this second, I mean, moving into the next couple years, whether or not they have Mateer, Bentley is just a good fit. He does what Arbuckle wants to do. I don't want to say similar to the Jackson Arnold to Lebby thing, but I think we all know that if Lebby would have stayed, Arnold would have had a more successful time at Oklahoma.
Good question.
I think that is not even up for debate, in my opinion. So it is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I know the chat will definitely give their thoughts and opinions on who has the better career. Well, will it be an O'Neal or will it be Bentley? But DMAT, just your thoughts on how it all played out, and then O'Neal, moving here, ultimately not able to stick with the commitment. OU going a different direction. Give me your take.
I discussed it in a pod, I think 2 or 3 months ago. The optics didn't look good. Kid comes to Norman. God forbid he wins a state championship, but damn, it's big boys ball. So in the here and now, 3 months later, we did get Bo Bentley. In the here and now, 3 months later, Arbuckle is getting the guy that he feels the most comfortable with. And in the here and now, we're talking about a guy who I think there wasn't, even you, when yes, you were staunchly an O'Neal guy, it wasn't as if you felt like Bo Bentley was like an also ran, right? So I think my concern at the point in time was with recruiting being in a space where it was at that point, we hadn't gotten some of the guys we've gotten to the fold in the last, 60, 75 days. And with a kid who has shown that, what would that look like in the recruiting space? We've rebounded with recruiting. I also liked O'Neal's natural skills. But I've said this forever, and I mean this, and this is not related to this one recruiting battle. This is just the way the game is played at the high school, college, and NFL level now. If you don't have a true dual threat pass first quarterback, you're at a competitive disadvantage when you play a team who does. And so that goes for a pocket passer, even if you're Supreme, you're Dan Marino, you're I don't know, Jeff George. I don't know. I'm just thinking about some guys back in the day, right? Some back in the day QBs when they went up against a Steve Young, when they went up against one of those guys who were, dual threat, that was a disadvantage. And then even going back to like a dual threat run first quarterback, right? So now we're talking about a guy who they're going to look to run first versus dual threat and can beat you with their arm. You're at a competitive disadvantage because a team can scheme you into trouble and then force you to turn into a running back. And then there's injuries and then there's turnovers and the whole night, right? So what I will say unequivocally is that Bo Bentley provides a true dual threat pass first quarterback, which I think that is the identity that Mateer wants in his offense. Or Arbuckle wants in his offense, excuse me, and that's what Mateer provides. And I think that's what Bo Bentley will duplicate. And so the optimism and the opportunity, I think it's legit. I think it's right. Bo's a Texas kid, you know what I mean? And I think he's going to continue to, players are going to continue to gravitate. I think Bo Bentley's doing everything he can do, just kind of tangentially speaking. I think there's 3 to 6 big time recruits. I just want to see if OU's going to play winning football, irrespective of Mateer, irrespective of Arbuckle, irrespective of everybody except BV. Is the team going to be good enough for OU to be a place for me to be at for 3 years and know there's going to be continuity, right? So I think we come out the gates, we beat Michigan, we get off to a fast start in September. The airwaves, the social media platforms, the ESPNs of the world are saying OU is, if we had beat Tennessee last year, there would have been a lot of positive publicity about OU and transitioning to the SEC. We beat Michigan, and then we've got a couple cupcakes and things to set up for the SEC schedule. 3, 4, 5-0 with a marquee win like Texas had. Texas played Michigan last year and got that win, and that was a marquee win for them in September. We get that W. A lot of players are going to be on the frenzy, the FOMO. Oh man, there's limited opportunities. OU is back to being OU. And so I feel like Bo Bentley or Jaden O'Neal weren't going to be the huge pivotal decision on that. It's going to be, are we going to start the season 4-0, 3-1 with a nail biter, whatever, right? If the season starts with a lot of positive energy towards us, we're in good shape. If not, there's a couple of guys who I'd say probably flip away from us. And so the QB, I don't want to talk about Jaden O'Neal anymore. He's not a Sooner. No disrespect to the kid. I wish him best at Mustang, wherever he ends up going. I hope he kills it. But I'm a Sooner. And in the day and age where guys are getting $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, $2 million, right? I'm not going to be concerned about a kid who's about to get paid enough to create generational legacy for his family. He'll be good. Jaden O'Neal, Oklahoma's, Mustang, Oklahoma is not a bad place to live. Playing football at Mustang is not a bad school to play at. He's going to have a good experience. He's going to be highly recruited. Bo Bentley's our guy until he's not. And because of that, that's my focus. That's the kid I want to really make sure we set him up for success. That's the kid I want to see continue to put us in position to win.
Man, D-Mac, that kind of leads us into what I want to cover today. So just so you all know, the position breakdowns are coming each week until the season starts. We got 48 days, so this is going to be a blast. This is where our bread is buttered, right? Well, we do the gossip, through the grapevine stuff occasionally, but that is not really the stuff we enjoy talking most of.
Did we lose Barry? Barry, are you there? I think we lost Barry. Until he comes back, I'll take the lead. No, it's going to be fun to get back to position groups. If you guys have listened to some of our old pods, we've gone over fall camp, what happens during the weeks of fall camp. We've gone over summer. What are the different, phases of summer and what the things they're trying to specialize in. Oh, it's always a storming pretty. Oh, he just totally cut out. All right, look at that. It's the Mac and Mac show now. I'm sure he'll plug back in here in a second. But guys, we're getting ready to plug right back into. I told Barry, and he's done the same. There's been times where both of us have been extremely busy, and we said, look, we want to make our stand and get back into the game full time, 2 pods during this upcoming season, and then 3 pods like we do during season. We do a pregame, a postgame, and a midweek. That'll be coming. All right, and so we're going to start out with the position groups. If you guys are on On3 and checking out the OU Insider site, you guys know they're posting the position groups. I think they're doing key contributors and guys who are going to be key contributors to the team. We definitely will be talking about who those players are and within those position groups. We're going to take a real close look at the schedule. All right. And what are the key games? What are the key phases of the schedule that we need to make sure we're cognizant of, and the opponents that, we want to make sure, that Michigan game is a huge game. But I think right out the gate, we've got Missouri or somebody right early in the schedule, in the SEC schedule. Those are huge games for us, right? We find a way to eke out a win. And I don't care if we win 13-10 or if we win 37-35, those W's are going to stack and really be worth 2.0, the value that they would typically be in a regular game to win those games. And so, going through those scenarios here in July, and then obviously going through those scenarios in August. And then I think this year we'll probably stagger back in. What does fall camp look like? We didn't do fall camp last year. We did it 2 years ago. So we'll break down fall camp because there is a formula to it, right? There is a way to do it where you can give the younger guys who are just coming in a fair chance, all right, to be an Antoine Savage who comes in as a true freshman and can start, right? Or to be, what did he change his number to? The freshman pup, running back. He changed his number, but right, remember he comes in and everybody says, oh, he's got a chance, right? Sometimes you miss that opportunity in August. And when you miss it and you're a pup, even if you're a sophomore, you're kind of shelved. You're put on a different track. You're given a different regimen for training. You're essentially during season training like it's off season. Of course, if you're playing and you're on the travel squad or you're a 2, right, a 1, a 2, or 2B-esque type player, then they treat your bodies different. Recovery is different. Nutrition is different. Everything's different. Your practice schedule is different, right? So we're going to talk about that. We don't see a lot of other podcasts discuss what is the strategy, what is the why, the nuance behind a fall camp, and how they're really looking at the board of the depth chart, right? The number of X's, the number of Y's, the number of Mike backers, the number of 3 techniques, the number of who's a guy that can play in a 3-man front and a 4-man front. Who are the guys who can only be a hand in the grass guy, or a guy who can go a 2-point stance, right? Who are the backers who can only go forward versus the backers who can play going backwards or lateral, side to side? Those are all discussions that happen in fall camp. Really, they're asking Schmitty for stuff, and some of the managers for stuff, and some of the people who are allowed to be with the players during summer, and they're collecting data every day. Skelly collecting data, 707 collecting data, 101's collecting data. By the way, just who's showing up, who's leading. I wouldn't be surprised if in 2025 there's someone collecting data on who was the most vocal, who spoke up the most times. I wouldn't be surprised if there was someone collecting data on who had their head down when they lost a rep. The coaches can't be there, but there are people within the program who can. And those are all things, guys, I'm telling you, they make a huge, huge difference come season. All right. And those are the things, right? Like, we need to have those conversations. Don't you guys agree? Like, don't you think those are the conversations that they make the difference between 7-5 and 13-0? You know how I know? That's how we went from a 7-5 team to a national championship team. It was literally, those were the nuances, those were the conversations, those were the directions we were going. So look forward to doing some fall camp analysis, looking forward to doing some position group analysis, looking forward to doing some scheduling analysis. I think we had we only had 30 people on our live, which is crazy. We've had 200 or 300 people, and it's okay because we took a 2-month hiatus to get our things and affairs in order so that this season we could deliver the goods. And I'm looking forward to that. Barry just sent me a text. I think there is some weather concerns. He just said, what did he say? Yeah. Okay, the whole thing went out. Yep, they're doing bad. Exactly, majority of the attention to detail. What's the difference between an 8-4 team and a 12-0 team? I guess 13-0 versus an 8-5 team. Like it's the details. It's the 1%. It really is. That's the difference between success and maybe, probably, we tried. Darn it. It's the difference, right? Some games, you're down 14-0 against Nebraska, and they've got all the momentum at home, and you look at that. Barry's getting ready. Hey,
all right, we're back.
He's back. I was just getting ready. I was getting ready to
crash out over here. So D-Mac, I was able to see you keeping the show rolling. So that's wonderful. Man, it leads us to this. I know we left off talking about Bo Bentley and what OU's going to do. I want to jump into this upcoming season and give just a bird's eye view on the schedule, what we can expect from the schedule, and what Venables has to do to be retained at Oklahoma, man. I think it is. I know Pate just dropped a video today, not too long ago, just saying what Venables needs to do to not have that hot seat get hotter as the season wanes on. And I think the first order of business is, of course, winning in Michigan. I think that is massive. But non-conference, OU's got what? Illinois State. They're going to be playing Michigan, Temple, which I want to talk about how you see the first 4 to 5 games going, DMAC, and if that will dictate how long OU is able to. I don't want to say get to where Venables is on the hot seat, where he's got to go, but what record in that first 5 does OU have to have coming out to lighten that load of expectations on Venables going forward through the middle and then back half of that season?
So 2 things. I'm looking at the schedule. There's 2 things that come to mind that I think are extremely important for optics. Number one, we've got to be competitive against Michigan, and really a W against Michigan is a pretty strong signal that things are going the right way. Granted, Michigan is turning over a championship roster from 2 years ago, and pretty much I'd say 70 to 80% of the dudes that won that year have now graduated. All right, so they had a lot of the studs coming back on the defensive side of the ball this past season. Those guys have preliminarily all gone on to the NFL. But in terms of brand, OU versus Michigan, we all saw what it did for Texas. It could do the same thing for us, especially if we win convincingly. Excuse me. This is the biggest game, Barry. It's September 20th against Auburn. It's September 20th. Jackson Arnold comes back to town. This is the game that will solidify if the issues on offense were, in fact, the quarterback or the environment. God forbid Jackson comes back and is able to kick ass. And God forbid Jackson comes back and we look like the Chinese fire drill. I'm telling you, that game optically is one that's going to be worth 2 victories or 3 losses. Well, we stomped them and everybody will be like, we knew they sucked. But if we find a way to win that game, Jackson plays well, but we play better without him, it's worth 2 wins. Everybody's like, man, hell yeah. But if we find a way to lose that game, or God forbid, he finds a way to beat us, that's not good. Now, here's another thing about the schedule that I think is really, a lot of people are mad about it and actually want to go to this game. But the OU game at Temple, if I were a coach, well, I understand from the AD perspective, the money. No, I want as many home games as possible because that's more money for our program. But I think it's a wise scheduling piece to go to Temple, have an away game, be in a white jersey, hear a crowd, or maybe it's even just for half a quarter. Who knows, right? Maybe they don't even come out because they don't know if OU is really good and they don't think they're going to win. So maybe it's a bad crowd, but the travel, the logistics, the change of environment, all that is, I think, a good thing to experience early in the season against a team that we should pretty convincingly be able to beat up. Winning a road game in September is worth 2 home games in September. That's just the rule. Bob always taught us that. Like if you went on the road in September, we went to Louisville, and Chris Redmond was the quarterback. And by the way, they had a couple of dudes that ended up being 10-year guys in the NFL at receiver on that team. We went there and beat them up pretty bad. That's why we rolled into Texas in October feeling like the invincible team. Granted, we lost to Notre Dame the next week, but those road games at the beginning of the season, it's a big deal. So I think Michigan, we've got to show we can't go and can't run the football and can't stop the run. If that happens at Michigan, we're in trouble. If we can run the football and be competitive and win that game, that's a huge brand win. Temple is a phenomenal opportunity for us to get, out of our comfort zone and see our guys have some logistics adversity. And then Auburn, that game, it's a conference game. Obviously, we know what happened with the quarterback, and it's at home. Our fans are going to see the kid who just left our school come back as an opponent. And are we going to give him, his medicine, or is he going to get his revenge? Those 3 games matter a lot.
Yeah, and I think, as you said, those games set up for what is going to happen for the rest of the year. The offense is probably going to be the not the biggest question mark, although I think it is. Well, we can't assume anything with how the past couple years have gone, but I think OU, the defense needs to come out with some continuity and be gelling early on, because that Michigan game to me, DMAC, feels like a potential Tennessee 2015, right? You have a brand new OC, and you have a guy who is brought his guy in at quarterback. Baker wasn't Riley's guy, but so to speak,
He ended up being Riley's guy.
He ended up being Riley's guy. Yeah, same conditions, relatively speaking. And I think it is a chance for Mateer to get some big time reps if they're able to have some success, some big time reps under his belt against a major opponent to set him up and get the team a little bit more confident going forward. But I feel like it is a game where if they come out slow and if they come out unable to, as you said, run the football, but also unable to just get separation on the perimeter, if the receivers are struggling, to me, the entire season, I know it's a bit much, but to me, the entire season hinges on that Michigan game and how OU looks in that game. Because Michigan, even though they had a rough year this past year, that quarterback they have, who's an absolute monster. Underwood, I think is his name. He's going to come out there looking the part. He's going to be ready to go, which is why I say the defense has got to be ready to play, because the defense in 2015 is what was able to keep in that game in the second half when the offense was needing to gain their footing. And I think what's going to happen is they're going to feel good against themselves after they play Illinois State. Things are going to look real fluid, and then they're going to play Michigan, man, and it's going to level up very, very fast. But you're right. If they get through that game and then they're able to take care of Auburn, and I think in that one that they need to be able to just show Arnold the proverbial on the field door, in that one, and say, thanks, but we're glad we have, the guy that we have, because if they get beat by him, to me, that could be the difference in BV staying at Oklahoma or not going into next year. I want to talk about really the meat of the schedule's in that middle part. OU has the toughest schedule in college football. I don't think there is a team that plays as many past playoff participants in a season. I'd be curious in the playoff era, DMAC, and maybe chat you guys if you have any insight or somebody wants to look this up. Do you think there has been a team in the playoff era play as many participants in the Final Four in one season, let's say in the last 3 to 4 years, right? Because you've got Alabama, you've got Texas, you've got Michigan. Ole Miss was on the cusp of getting in there, right? You have a lot of teams that were right on the very edge of being in that Final Four. But man, that middle part of the season is going to be a bear. Do you think let's see how I want to ask this. Do you think OU running the ball is going to hinge more greatly on the offensive line needing to gel, right? Because I think OU fans saw that as a factor this past season, and we were maybe a little more critical of the running backs. Or do you think it comes down to Ott and Mateer and the scheme that OU is able to implement going especially into that middle part of the year when there's going to be film on them? Nothing's really going to surprise teams in the same way. What do you think the ground game really hinges on as far as OU being able to be steady in that part of the game?
Honestly, I think the two things that will determine our ability to run the football are two things we learned last year. Offensive lineman health and depth. We need 7 guys. We need a healthy center, and we need to be able to, on third and medium, make sure the 2 tackles can hold the pocket 2.5 seconds. But more importantly, I hate to say more importantly, that's not a good way to say it. Also, I think is the right way to say, we need to be a threat in the pass. Mm-hmm. If teams can play us cover 2, 12 safeties with their heels at 12, and can go from a shell to a driving safety where one of them's driving the C gap pre-snap, and then one of them is just a single high safety, and their corners feel good about, hey, I got everybody else, we're in trouble. In other words, we show a cover 2, so now they're taking away pass pre-snap, but at the snap of the ball, there's 8 in the box, and the safety's running, they're rallying weak side C gap, we're in trouble. Because the defense is dictating to us what to do, and that safety is going to be unblocked at all times, and he's going to be reading quick game to C gap, right, to running back spill on screen. So like they're just canceling all the kind of like the bare bones stuff that a team wants to do. If we make a team put safeties at 14, 15 yards, if we make teams say we're going to – remember back in the day when a blitz was a gamble before all the analytics? Guys, blitzing was like it's third and medium, we got to get the play here. We got to blitz just to change. Like blitzing used to be like a pure gamble, and it still is to a degree because of the analytics saying where's their soft spot's going to be. But blitzing is now done in a coordinated fashion where sometimes it's a smoke and mirror situation, and you think there's 7, but there's only 4 coming, and there's some guys that aren't rushing, they're just standing at the line of scrimmage checking. The game has changed a ton since the day and age of just hair on fire, go get the quarterback. And so the thing that stops teams from being multiple is passing the football. When you can pass the football, you've got because here's the thing, football is still won in the trenches. I know I'm kind of being oxymoronic in what I'm saying, but those who understand the game understand the game. The Chiefs are 3 times more difficult to stop when on any given play, Tyreek can beat you over the top, and Kelsey can beat you in the center of the field, and the Hardemans and the ancillary guys of the world are all plus receivers, because at the end of the day, you never want to get beat deep. You never want to get beat over the top. You never want them to score the next play. You want to try to get them. Like the game has changed to bend but don't break. Somewhere along the way, they're going to get a penalty. They're going to get a turnover, right? A bad play, right? You defense want to create negative plays so that they get down a distance and they're on the side. Running the football will steal your heart. That's facts. But there are ways to put 7, 8, 9 guys in the box. And what teams will generally do, right? The new SEC, here you go. You get me on my soapbox, right? Because when I played, the SEC would say, put 7 in the box, we're going to run the football. Put 8 in the box, we're going to run the football. Put 9 in the box, and we're going to get 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and we're just going to control the game for 39 minutes, 41 minutes, and we'll just play keep away. That was the SEC probably 8, 10 years ago even. When I played, that was definitely the SEC, which is why we kicked their ass, because we'd say, cool, we're going to score 14 quick points, and now you don't have enough confidence to pass the ball, right? Like they're like, right, their whole game plan's out the window because they didn't have the confidence. Well, when you can't stop the pass guess what also happens, Barry? You generally can't stop the run because teams do what they want to do. So I say that to say the offensive line gives us the ability to stay multiple on offense, and we can run screen game, action game, misdirection, right? We can run quick game. We can do all the things. We can run QB, RPO, right? Action in the flat stuff that'll really keep a defense on their heels and keep a defense vanilla. And when you keep a defense vanilla, it's just simply easier to run the football, right? So do you want to beat a brick wall down and say the SEC has 6'5", 310-pound tackles and 6'2", 4'5", 40 running backers and 6'1", 4'3", running 40 DBs? Let them be in a space where they know what's happening or they're guessing. That's the game we play now. So offensive line needs to be competent. We need to have the ability to throw the ball and be a threat in the pass. Otherwise, safeties will have heels at 12. They'll be playing games with us and having guys, robbing pre-snap. You'll see a guy at 12 and pre-snap, you'll see the safeties already doing this. And one of the safeties will be screaming backside C-gap, which means the weak side DN can go inside. So now he can do a move on the tackle. So now he doesn't have to keep contained because if quarterback spills, here comes the safety. I mean, it just makes the game easier on defense for those who know X's and O's. You could threat with the pass. Safety's got to play safety. Now you're playing 9 on 10.
Yeah, and I went back, and kind of prepping for this and watched a handful of games of last season. And one of the games that I watched, DMAC, really told the story for the year and is in essentially what you're saying. And that was the South Carolina game.
Yeah.
South Carolina controlled the line of scrimmage with 3 to 4 guys. And because of that, OU didn't have a shot. They knew even with Hawkins' ability running the ball, that as long as they kept him in the pocket, the running back and the traditional ground game was not going to be a threat. So they had, and then they said, you can't beat us throwing the ball, but you also can't whip us at the line of scrimmage if we give up. And they did in that game, especially kind of in the middle portion. They with Jackson, when Jackson came in at quarterback, they gave up some bigger runs, but they stayed true to the scheme, and they said, but we feel that we can give those occasional 8, 9, 10, even if you go for 15, you're not doing that the entire field on us. And you don't have the horses to do it, which for me, it's why it was so important for OU to go out there and one, get an OC who's going to have a scheme, a plan, come in with some deception, some misdirection, and just know where they want to go in terms of strategy, right? And know what they want to do in terms of, attacking a weakness. That was one thing Riley was so good at. Sarkisian is great at that. And then also, and this is actually something I heard Sarkisian, talk about the other day, building your offense to fit with what your guys do really, really well. And I saw the comment about Mateer, layered passes over the middle, which, correct me if I'm wrong, DMAC, I think that's something that everybody but the top echelon can struggle with, right? Those kind of passes over the middle of the field, layering them, 15, 20 yards, 25 yards down the field. Those are tough throws, right? Anytime you're playing a team that is long and athletic and can give you different looks, those are hard passes to complete. I think for OU, if they're able to stay within their game, but build an offense where your weapons like, a Gibson, if he's able to return, like a Deion Burks, who's going to be a major threat this season, even more so because of what they've got now at running back. So to kind of button the whole thing up, DMAC, and I think position group. Well, what position group in next episode do you want to hit first? I was going to say start on the defensive side of the ball, but maybe go secondary like we did last year and just bring it back to.
We should probably start at the line of scrimmage. Let's start on the line of scrimmage.
Okay. All right.
If we go defense or offense, I'll let you pick. I don't care if we go defense or offense, but let's start at the line of scrimmage and let's build back or let's build forward. That way, We can go
Awesome.
O-lines, running backs, receivers, or we can go D-line backers, DBs. You tell me which way you want to go,
Perfect.
and we can do that.
Awesome, man. So to kind of button this up, looking at the schedule, out of like those top 4 to 5 teams that OU is going to play this season, before we give a prediction on what we actually think will happen, which team or teams scare you the most in terms of, not saying it's going to be a loss, but going in there, that's going to be a huge mountain to climb for OU. And if there is a loss on the schedule, that one's not going to be one that stings quite so much as, you go out there and you lose to Auburn, right? So give me those maybe 1 or 2 teams where you think it's going to be OU's hardest road to hoe, whether away or, it's a bad matchup. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, me, I don't predict losses in the summer, but I'm looking at the schedule. Bama at home. We play Bama at home. We beat them this year or this past season. That's going to be a game that they're going to have a point to prove. They're going to want to make sure, they right that wrong. I also think, grudge match stated, Tennessee in Tennessee is a game Josh is I'm just telling you, by the way, I'm literally going to go speak to his team. Man, salute to my old quarterback. They hired me. I have a new coaching gig that I'm doing. I've expanded my business. Here I'm pitching my business now. It's my platform, damn it. I can take 30 seconds and say this. But they're paying for me to come speak to their team about championship culture. They're flying me in. They're putting me up. I'm eating dinner with the team, and I am one of their fall or summer camp coaching mentors. And so I'll come, do a day deal, and then I'll come back during the season, and it won't be OU because you know what I'm saying? When we play them, I'll probably be at that game, but I will be in Crimson at that game. But no, salute, right? Like, those are the type of things that Hype wants to win. You know what I mean? Like, and I know for a fact the OU win last year kind of got smeared because of Nico and just what transpired with him. And so I know he's going to want to make sure they hold home court at home as well. Here's the other thing I want to speak to, Barry, and I think it's important to say. Our schedule, everyone talks about how scary it is. And I look at the Bamas and, LSU is a perennial power in the SEC, and obviously Alabama is, and Tennessee has been in the past. When I was in college, Tennessee was really good. They fell off for a while. Everybody's breaking in new quarterbacks. No one really knows what a true data point is anymore with NIL, transfer portal. Teams look totally different year to year. And so, like a school like Missouri, I don't know what they have. I know the quarterback was injured last year and he decided to stick around, but he's a guy coming back. But I also know they lost all the receivers. You know what I'm saying? So, right? So it'll be interesting to see what Missouri brings back. Bama's a team where you can guarantee they're going to come prepared. LSU's a team where we get them at home, though. And we get them towards the end of the season. We don't know what the injuries and things look like when you get to November. So, LSU is not Bama or Georgia. They're not. They're just not. They're going to have skilled guys, yes. I saw someone saying they're scared of Nussmeier. Why? He lost his job before. I'm not afraid of Nussmeier. He's not a guy who can kill you with his legs. He's a competent, solid college QB, no doubt. But he's not like an NFL. I know they've got him in these preseason rankings. That don't mean nothing. Go look at how many guys were in the preseason rankings. They had, what's the quarterback from Texas last year?
Oh man, how do I?
Whatever his name was. What round did he get drafted in? The 6th. When did they have him projected preseason? The 1st. They had him projected first round. So I don't give a damn about any of these preseason QB. Nussmeier is not a dude that when I watch him play, like, oh man, he's an NFL dude. He's going to be a difference maker. He's a veteran college QB. He's a D-Mac. If I was a senior my senior year, if I got to play my senior year receiver, that's the kind of player I'd be. A good player, catch the ball, score 7 or 8 touchdowns. I wasn't going to be Mark Clayton. I could have been, but you know what I'm saying? Like, my track record didn't say I was tracking to be Mark Clayton. That's why he's a dude. He's a dude, but he ain't like, I'm scared, right? So, Bama, Tennessee, looking forward to Ole Miss. We play them in Norman.
That will be big.
We play them in Norman. We play South Carolina. We got to play them in South Carolina. That's going to be a tough one. OU Texas, it is what it is. And Auburn, I think Auburn's a big game. I'm just telling you, with all the optics and the things that are happening, I don't predict a loss. OU Texas, Bama at home, Tennessee at home. Those 3 games are the difference between a championship type season. And those 3 games, assuming 2 or 3 could potentially be losses, I think those are 3 games that if you lose 2 of those 3 and you win the rest of your games, you're still in pretty good shape.
Man, to wrap us up today, looking back, one of the things that I think fans take for granted, because now we just look back and see that record, but you go watch the LSU game. OU was in the thick of that for a good chunk early on, that they were hanging with them. It wasn't until LSU just had too many dogs on the offensive side of the football for OU to contend with and keep up pace. Outside of South Carolina, there wasn't a team on the schedule that just from start to finish dominated the football game.
Nope.
So now and OU's offense was not just bad; it was historically bad. Not even definitely by OU metrics, but by college football metrics in general. And yet they were still able to hang around in some of these games. So what does that tell you? I think there is room for saying in the transfer portal era, you add a superstar quarterback or a guy who fans believe can be a superstar at Oklahoma, and you go and get a big time running back, you fill in some gaps on the offensive line, you have a 2014 to 2015 level transformation. As far as the offensive side of the ball is concerned. Defensively, I think they're going to be one of the best defenses in college football. They are now upgraded at almost every group. Defensive line I don't know if there is a close second in terms of depth and bodies, right? You're 1 through 10 with what OU can offer at that group, defensive tackle and a defensive end. OU might have the best lot of guys, given graduation this past season, guys going to the NFL on other teams. OU was able to retain a lot.
Can I say something about that,
Barry? Go ahead.
I don't see the swag that I saw when OU was 15 years ago. Georgia's defense, Bama's defense, Clemson had a run where that was their defense. That was OU. OU lined up pre-snap like we're kicking your ass. 2003, 4, 5, from our defense, 01 to about 07, like we were the perennial, that defense will line up on any given Saturday and whoop your ass, right? On paper, with the transfer ins and the returning starters and the high caliber guys that are coming up, I see the potential. I want to see defense look simple to them, right? Like we've put up numbers that look cool, look good. We produced stats and we produced, a couple of NFL dudes on defense, which is super dope. I want to see the defense look like Georgia's defense looked 4 years ago. When Georgia had the best defense in America, you could just watch the game like they're going to dominate. That's what I want to see before I just start penciling the defense in as like ass kicker. On paper and with, depth chart analysis, it looks good. I want on Saturday the defense to look like they are moving the chess pieces on the football field board and the offense is the one that's having to respond. If we see that, until we see that, I got to assume the offense has got to continue to have mass upgrades. Otherwise, there's no guarantee that in big games, we're going to see the success we want to see.
Fantastic stuff. Well, Sooner Nation, want to thank everybody for joining us up today. Been a second, had a couple little technical difficulties, but man, we'll get back on track. We appreciate the love and the patience. Go over to OUinsider.com, OU Insider, get yourself a membership. Follow us on social media on X, which is where during the football season we do post a lot. Damian is at D_Mac13. Find me at BWise Fitness at letter B WISE Fitness, and then follow the Barry and Mac Show, Barry and Mac SHW on X, and then the Barry and Mac Show on Instagram. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you soon.